So we're well over halfway through our series, and if you've noticed, we've been trying to do a couple of new things as part of the A. Richard Newton series. We've had our traditional lectures, we had a fireside chat, and today we're actually doing two new things. First, we're going to switch out our usual end of the lecture survey, and we're going to try something a little bit more interactive with a beta test with a tool called Critica. You'll hear about it more after the lecture, but I will be telling you now that if you have a last name that goes A through M, you'll want to be listening after the lecture to figure out how to use this tool called Critica instead of the survey for today's lecture. So stay tuned, and we'll speak to you after the speaker finishes. Second new thing is that our speaker is sponsored not only as part of the Newton Lecture Series today, but also as part of the Cal Startups Group, which encompasses, but is not limited to, Chinese entrepreneurs. Is that right, Chuck? Okay. And the person behind that event is none other than Chuck Eng, who is sitting right up front. Chuck is a partner at Summa Ventures in Silicon Valley, and he's investing in companies with US and Chinese operations. In his past life, he worked at eBay PayPal, where he led financial strategy and global expansion to Singapore, China, and the creation of the PayPal Bank, where he won the PayPalian Award, the highest honor at PayPal. Chuck seems to be everywhere at one time. And in addition to his work with ventures, he's incredibly active in the Cal Alumni Association. He co-founded and is president of the UC Berkeley Greater China Alumni Association, and because he does like to win awards, evidently got the 2007 UC Berkeley Alumni Club of the Year Award for his work. Chuck, would you kindly introduce our speaker who's been at the forefront of innovation on both sides of the Pacific Ocean?
Absolutely.
You can speak either here
Okay,
or here.
very good. I'll use that actually. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Terrific. Actually, it's wonderful to be back on campus, and actually, Professor Rich Newton is actually someone that I respect greatly, and so as a matter of fact, to be back here and participating in this distinguished speaker series in honor of Professor Rich Newton, it's great. So I want to, before I introduce the speaker, I want to talk a little bit about actually, as a matter of fact, in today's event, one of the things that we're initiating is a new initiative within sort of the alumni community, which is what we call Cal Startups. And one of the things that we really realize is, and having really sort of been a past life of that before investing, after Berkeley, I went to work for large companies, and from large companies, started my own companies, and then, eventually got into investments myself. But one of the things I really observe is, I think there's no question that when you guys all graduate, being Berkeley graduates, there's going to be tons of opportunities waiting for you, whether large companies or medium-sized or all kinds of opportunities. But one of the things that I find that as you progress in terms of your career, you wanted to do even more entrepreneurial stuff. And one of the things I find that it's perhaps one thing that we could do more. And that's why I think as a Berkeley alumni community, one of the things that we really want to do more is to really kind of provide that resources and platform. And so that's why we kind of right now in the process of forming a Berkeley community called Cal Startups, which is going to be a combination of virtual as well as part of social networking, social network that we're going to utilize. As a matter of fact, we actually, I don't know if some of you guys might have already participated, we actually started something with Sam Altman, which is the former CEO, well, not former, but current CEO of Y Incubator, Y Combinator, just very recently over Skydeck. And today's Dr. Jun Wu is certainly another speaker that we're co-joining with CET to do that. So for some of you guys who are interested in that, I welcome you to come and talk to us. As a matter of fact, in order to do something like that, and as an investor, there's nothing without a great team. So as a matter of fact, I'm very happy that we actually have some key leaders. I see Danny, Nan, Andy, I don't know, Sharon's around, and some of other speakers. Can you guys stand up just kind of so that people can know who you are and then perhaps talk to you more about, sort of the startup community and whatnot on that. Okay, so that being said, let me kind of, without further ado, let me kind of, I think the reason why I think all of you guys here today is to hear what my good friend, Dr. Jun Wu, has to say about, the history of Silicon Valley and the rise of Google. Anyways, so in terms of Dr. Jun Wu, I'm very happy that he could join us today. He really started a career early days of Google. As a matter of fact, he was one of the key person within Google who was, key researchers on the anti-spam area. He also, was the creator and author of the Chinese, Japanese, Korean search algorithms and much more of the inventions in this area of technology invention at Google. As a matter of fact, he was really honored both by Eric Schmidt as well as Sergey Brin as the Distinguished Google Engineering, receiving the Distinguished Google Engineering Award. After spending many, many years at Google, Dr. Jun Wu actually joined Tencent, which, as you guys know, is also another top 5 internet properties, as the VP in charge of search infrastructure, map, and ads from 2010 to 2012. And as a result of him joining Tencent, he was able to, really help the company boost its search traffic and revenue by 6-fold in 2 years. Dr. Jun Wu rejoined Google to head up the efforts in automation, questions, and answering since 2012. He is also a member of the advisory member of the School of Engineering of Johns Hopkins, advisor of the Ministry of Industry and Information Technology in China, general partner at Silicon Valley's Zpark Ventures, as well as actually author of quite a few best-selling books, which, by the way, for some of you guys who are interested in his books, we actually have some of those books outside for some of you guys to check it out. So I thought, lastly, it's really timely that, as you guys might have heard, that Berkeley actually, as a matter of fact, has a program, which it's a joint degrees program, which we recently announced between Berkeley and the best university in China called Tsinghua University, where we will be actually doing dual degrees in master's and PhD. And Dr. Jun Wu is a distinguished Tsinghua alum, and I actually personally, being the head of the Greater China Alumni Association, have personally been involved with that for the last 2 years. So I'm very honored that Dr. Jun Wu at this particular juncture could join us. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Dr. Jun Wu.
Hi, thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Chuck, and thanks to Victoria. So. If you sit on the back row and you can hear me, please raise your hand. Okay, wonderful. So I was very, very happy to be here and to be given the chance to share with you some information I have. After I worked for many, many years in industry in the Valley and also have some experience in China, and instead of tell you something new, I really like to share what I thought, and I really hope that instead of just give you some ideas, I really like to learn from you and get some feedbacks from you. Okay. So before I just started, so I talked to some guys here, and they asked me whether I should join a small companies with like tens of people, or some big companies with big names with like 10,000 or even more people, which seems to me very stable. And I really couldn't give you advice which one is better. Unless I know your preference, your like expertise and your personality, because it really depends. Some people really fit companies with like 1,000 people and then will help that company to grow from 1,000 to 10,000 people. But some companies really like small startups. But one fact I can tell you is that for Fortune 500 companies, do you know what's the average lifetime time for those companies. I mean, the life for those Fortune 500 companies is only 39 years old, which is about half of our person's life, right? Only one half. We can live about, on average, 80 years a day. So that means those big companies, will lose their masters probably one day suddenly, like in 5 years, and some big names like Sun Microsystem, well, it's part of Oracle now, and they have a competitor, which I think also, get benefit from some Berkeley employee and students actually. It's called SGI, Silicon Graphics, and it's actually basically founded by people from Stanford, and many engineers graduated from Berkeley, and you probably didn't hear that name. And there's also a big name, Fairchild. Is there anybody who never heard this name? Fairchild? Yeah, well, we are in Berkeley and in engineering school. So in the morning, I give a talk to another group of people, and I found 80% of people never heard Fairchild. And so it was a great company, and maybe one of the greatest company historically, but it's a very, very small semiconductor company today. So what I want to tell is that everything got changed. And some company got rise, some company fall down, but Silicon Valley is still Silicon Valley. And we are not another Detroit, we are not another Pittsburgh, even though we don't have silicon, we don't have much silicon here today. And I would like to say it's a value of innovation, or value of software, or value of internet, or value of whatever, but not a value of silicon, but still people call us Silicon Valley. So what happens inside Silicon Valley? So that's some secret I want to share with you today. So let me start from some story of Google. So let's start from how Google grew from a small company to a bigger one. And I would say split Google into 3 stages, a very small one, and a medium-sized one, and a huge one. During the early stage of Google, when I joined, and Google had about 300 people at that time. So the only thing, the management, share with the information with you from the management point of view, okay? So at that time, the challenge for Google is that the company was so small, and we have so many things to do. Actually, I have another slide. That's my fault. So we have so many things to do, but we have so few people. So the management only worried that whether we do the right thing. So what they do is that they spend one day every week. So we have a small group of management. So with Larry, Sergey, and Eric, and Wayne Rosen, who was the first engineering VP at that time, and Urs Horst, who is the senior VP in charge of infrastructure today, and who was also the first Google fellow at that time. Okay, so these 5 people sit together in a small conference room with about 10 people, and ask engineers to present their work one by one every week. So not every week, they work every week. So you present maybe every 3 or 4 weeks. So everybody can have like only 5 minutes to present his work. What they want to make sure is that you do the right thing, and that's it. They don't care about how you implement anything, and they even don't care about like the progress you have done. So they trust on your skills and your judgments on engineering and on products. So they have to trust on you because they have no choice. And there are so many things to do. And they just want to make sure that you pick the right thing to do. And that's it. And why? Because they know that your future has been bundled with the future of the company. So you have to work hard they don't worry about that. So when I was in Google at that time, so I seldom went back home before midnight. So usually the time I arrive home is about 2 o'clock on average. Sometimes I went home at like 6 o'clock in the morning, and then get back to company at about 10 o'clock in the morning. So everybody work like that. So we worked like a dog, and so about 7 days a week, and like at least 15 to 18 hours every week. So that's our life, and because we have no hope if a company got died. So the management don't worry whether you work hard, whether you cooperate. They don't worry about it. They just want to make sure that among 500 important projects, we picked maybe 10 most important one to do, or even 5. We thought about like image recognition to recognize people's face. We thought about speech recognition, and we thought about machine translation, but we never do that. We know that they really will change. Will change the world actually, but we cannot afford to waste time to do that. So we focus on search, all kinds of search. We focus on advertisement, on both search ads and content targeting advertisement. And we focus on actually something you never think about, email. We focus on email at very early stage, starting from 2001, even though we launched Gmail service, I think 2003 or 2004, we didn't want to Yahoo know that we focus on email because we still partner with Yahoo, and Yahoo knows that they probably want to terminate our cooperation. But we prepared for that. Why? Because we want to have glue people to our services. Without Gmail, we cannot do that. So we focus on a couple of things, and eventually Google grew to about 1,000 people and went to IPO. And at that time, many people got rich. And what management worried about, and many of them grow from like a fresh grads to like a senior engineer or even a staff engineer, okay? And they manage a team of 10 people. And instead of doing only 5 or 10 projects, we did about maybe 50 projects or even 100 projects. So at that time, what management really worried is whether people can still cooperate with each other, whether we still have the same goal, because at early stage, they don't worry about that. Everybody has the same goal. And when the company has 2,000 people, whether we can still do that, we can still cooperate. So the company found an organization, a small group of management we call OC, Operation Committee. So it has CXO, actually CEO, and CFO, and the chief. We don't have CTO, but we had people in charge of engineering. Google, and he has some senior VP to report to him, and we have the some kind of chief product manager, even though we don't call it that name. Okay, we call it like senior VP of product. We have like the top legal guy. This group of about 10 people is called Operation Committee, OC. So then like engineering award becomes the OC award. We have the founders award also. So if you did something wonderful and with great impact to the world, and you got OC award. So that's the company at that time. So the organization at that time is really important, interesting. That is Google is over there. So we founded lots of project groups. Instead of have very structured report structure like Amazon, we have this very messy structure. Basically, everybody has 2 bosses. One is the boss in charge of your product. So what's your project? He take care of the like techniques issues or product issues. And you also have a people manager, which give you bonus, and if you want to have some promotion and want to talk to somebody, and he will take care of that. But he only work for your the HR issues instead of your product issues and your project issues. He didn't care about that. So then the organization become quite messy, but the people cooperate very well. And we always talk to each other before we start some new project, and make sure that we don't do two same thing inside the company. Well, you don't need to pay attention to Microsoft or Apple. So Apple, Steve Jobs is like the king of the company, right? And we don't have such king inside the company. And Microsoft, they have some branches and they fight for each other. Anyway. So that's the what management really cares. So make sure that the company still want to cooperate. The advantage is very clear, and the people still work hard and cooperate. The bad thing is the cost of cooperation is so large. It's huge. So give you an example. So suppose you want to build an application for Google Map, a new application, and everybody like it. So how could you like to build up a team? So you need 20 people, but unfortunately, probably you cannot find 20 people in Mountain View in 3 months. If you want to hire people, it really takes time. And then the management tell you, well, so John, so in New York, and there are 5 engineers, they just finished their previous projects. Whether you like to take over these 5 people, you say yes. Why don't I take over these 5 people? That's cool. And you got 5 people from New York, you got 5 people maybe from India, and 10 people from Kirkland. Then to cooperate these 3 teams inside 3 locations, and you are in Mountain View, for example, it's really painful, right? So, and eventually, and after some change and reorganization, it becomes that in your office, I had 20 projects work with 30 maybe offices in 30 countries, and then in Mountain View, there are some projects need have like 5 engineering groups from 4 countries, so it's totally messy. And then there becomes some project, because it's so messy, there are some projects with engineers from many different areas, and even the head PM and the engineering director don't know whether some small offices, they really have contribution to this project. So the management becomes really painful, and the bureaucracy increased dramatically just in 2 or 3 years, from 2007 to 2009. And suddenly Google found that even though competing with Microsoft and still okay, competing with Facebook is almost impossible at that time. And also Google faced the challenge from an Apple or mobile applications, operating systems, and cell phones. So then Google made another change. Its current change look like this. Google don't have OC anymore, no operating committee, and so there's only one guy in the middle called the CEO. And because his name is Larry Page, so he has a team called L team, Larry's team, so directly report to him. So Alan Eustace, who used to play a role as like CTO inside Google, and he actually become like the senior VP of one we call it product area. We don't want to call it BU, business unit, because inside BU, you have to take care of your budget. You have to earn money, right? And he's from Lenovo. He definitely knows that. So you are in mobile BU, you have to sell your cell phones to get money. But in Google, you don't need to do that. We call it product area. But otherwise, it's more like a BU. So he's in charge of product area we call the knowledge. It includes machine translation, speech recognition, and knowledge graph, which is we think is an important engine behind all Google products, which we put all the concept together using a graph. And he's also in charge of Google Map and Geo services. And Sergey, you know him, right? He's head of Google X and innovation. Amir Singhal was my boss, and he's in charge of Google Search, so the oldest and the biggest branch inside Google. And Susan was the only female inside the OC, and now she's in charge of many things, and right now she's in charge of YouTube. YouTube used to report to Sala. Sala, actually, I would credit him as the inventor of Google AdWords. Without Sala, Google don't know how to, well, Google knew how to earn money, but cannot be that profitable. So Sala was in charge of Google Ads for a long time. And during the early days, even Larry Page, during some time, Larry Page actually got confused. He even got confused whether Google can deliver the ad service, and Sala worked really hard to make it happen. Skindo actually took over the ads today. Worth is still in charge of global infrastructure. If you think of Google data center, he's the guy who built the data center. And before he joined Google, actually he was a professor, very famous on OO design actually. Objective-oriented design. That's his expertise, not data, how to build data center. Sander took over Android and Google Chrome, and that branch was reported to Andy Rubin before. But Andy want to do something new. He want to build like Google, the next Google. So right now, so we have some product area. So each product area is like a small Google. They have their own power to give, for example, somebody some stock options, and they can make a decision, and they can make they have lots of powers inside. So right now we have, instead of have one Google, we have some many product areas. So the border is very clear. So the cooperation between product area is becomes very few, so that inside product area there are lots of connections, but outside comparatively is independent. So that becomes the third or fourth stage of Google. So I just want to tell you some story from the measurement point of view. And now let me talk about something about Silicon Valley in general. So I was asked by many people why Silicon Valley becomes so successful. So you know that, and we are so successful. We have almost one company listed in NASDAQ or New York Exchange every week. And 40% of the biggest 100 biggest companies in the NASDAQ are headquartered in Silicon Valley. So there are many people give us the reasons. And also we have I would say, top 2 best university in the world according to the number of best majors. So both Berkeley and both Carr and Stanford are better than MIT and Harvard or Cambridge in number of best programs in the world. And we had a culture. I like hippie actually. If I have time, I will tell you that there's a very strong correlation between hippie and the innovation of Silicon Valley. I'm not kidding you, actually, it's true. So I would say this is a secret of Silicon Valley. Okay, So there are many explanations why Silicon Valley becomes so successful. One story I heard was because we had Stanford in the valley, because you know that many companies were incubated inside Stanford, right? Like Cisco or some Microsoft, Yahoo, and Google. But I always ask me whether it was true. I really thought about that, because if one university is so important, why it doesn't happen in the Boston area? So in Boston, they have almost twice as many universities as they have here. And they have almost 250,000 of college students. It's a big number compared to the area with only about 4 million people. And they have Nobel Prize laureates, one every 10,000, which is also very high percentage. But they don't create any great companies since 80s. So I checked 12 big companies inside Fortune 500 list. The last one was incorporated in 1979, actually. Why they don't have great companies in 30 years? This is a good question, right? So somebody say weather is important, but why not in Florida, Silicon Valley happens? And somebody told me that venture capital was really important. But the truth was, early venture capitals came from New York area. We didn't have venture capital in 50s and even in 60s. So most of the famous, venture capitals in this area incorporated in 70s, like Sequoia and the KP and the NEA actually. They founded in 70s. But Silicon Valley, start before that. So why that's so important? And also, if you look at the history of venture capital investment, even though they were not called venture capital, but they did a similar thing, like JP Morgan, like 100 years, more than 1 century back. So he invested on Edison and Tesla, just like a venture investment. But why Silicon Valley was not in New Jersey or in New York? And I even don't agree with that Stanford has so much contribution to the valley as many Stanford students claimed. If you look at the stage of Stanford University, the status of Stanford University, it almost went bankruptcy at that time. And after World War II, Berkeley has a much bigger and bigger name than Stanford. So I give 3 pictures here: Oppenheimer and Lawrence and Compton. So they basically lead the entire project, the Manhattan Project. Without these 3 guys, we cannot have Manhattan Project done. But if you list 50 people, most important people inside Manhattan Project, you cannot find anybody from Stanford. So there must be something. Let me skip all this. So something, other possible reasons. Okay. So and the geo reasons and okay. So I put some Chinese characters here. So to decode the secret of Silicon Valley, I probably briefly introduce. You all know the history of Silicon Valley, but let me still briefly review the history of Silicon Valley. So I put some Chinese characters there. The first one means timing. So we need good timing, okay? The second one needs location. The third one needs people. So if you put these 3 things together, something will happen. So Silicon Valley starts from a good time. In 50s, IBM want to build their storage. So they want to build a new branch. Instead of build another office near New York, they thought, well, because it's something new, let's find a new location to build this new branch. So eventually they found in South San Jose, there are still some area they can purchase. They purchased land and build a so-called San Jose Research Center, but now called Armadan. And before IBM entered this area, nobody here know how to build a computer, and because computer was so new at that time. So they eventually brought thousands of experts to this area. So that starts the computer industry in this area. So this IBM is important. And the other one, you heard his name, Fred Terman, who was credited as the father of Silicon Valley. So I just told that after World War II, Stanford almost got bankrupt. And so he read the will of Leland Stanford and found that even though Stanford cannot sell the land to the public, they can lease the land and get some money so that they can still run education. They don't want to get rich at that time. Their dream was just make sure the university can run. So that's their only dream at that time. So they leased the land to HP, to Kodak, to Lockheed Martin, the company with big names, and get some income. And that small park called Stanford Scientific Park now become the center of Silicon Valley. So that's for the location and for the land. And so the third thing is really important. You must heard the story of Chapter 8. Is there anybody who never heard of Chapter 8? Okay, so Chapter 8, well, to make a long story short, Shockley, a research scientist from Bell Labs, he invented a transistor and got Nobel Prize. He came from actually California, and his mother was old, so he decided to get back to this area and to take care of his mother. And because he was so famous, he had lots of very bright people, very smart people. But he had two problems. Number one, he's not a good coworker. Number two, he was not a good boss. So inside his company, used to call Shockley Transistor and then called Shockley Semiconductor. Inside that company, 8 people decided to rebel. And that people include Moore. We all know Moore law, right? Gordon Moore was one of the 8. And another one called Noyce. He was the inventor of IC, integrated circuit. And another one called Klein. We know Klein Perkin, the VC. So Klein was one of the 8. So these 8 people decided to left Shockley, and they founded another company with the help of Locke, a VC investor from New York. And that company was called Fairchild. Was named by the investor, so from Fairchild family. And many people, you probably don't want to work with from Fairchild today, but in 60s, it's such a great company that almost everybody in semiconductor area once worked for Fairchild. So suppose we have a summit of semiconductor companies in this room, okay, with all you guys here, about 100 people. And then you will find about 60% of those giants in semiconductor once worked for Fairchild. It's such a great company during the 60s. And we don't know how many companies it spin off afterwards, but we know that they have about, there are about 92 public companies spin off from Fairchild. And also, if you sum up the market cap of those 92 companies, it's 2.1 trillion, which is huge. It's more than the GDP of India, more than the GDP of Brazil, more than the GDP of Canada, and also more than the GDP of Russia. We don't have another IBM or AT&T we never have in this area, but we have Fairchild. So traders is #1 secret I want to tell you of Silicon Valley. So if you want to get success here, you have to be a trader. Patriot has, no hope here, okay? You don't want for a company for many, many years, for 20 years, okay? You have to betray your company. And then Lewis and Moore became trader again from Fairchild, and they founded a great company called Intel. And then there came some other trader from Fairchild and say, well, why don't we found another company compete with Intel? Then that company become AMD. So that can explain why Fairchild couldn't be another IBM, because all those smart people left the company. But it really benefit our area, our Silicon Valley area. So if it happens in 60s, okay, 68, when was hippies, that culture, I think, when did that happen? I think it's about that time, right? So basically, if you want to do some homework, and you will find that those people have very tight correlation in their thoughts. They don't want traditional stuff. They want to try something new, even though they may fail. Okay, and the entire area is tolerant to the failure, and to the rebel, to the betray, and to cheaters. So that's something Silicon Valley is so different from other areas. So that I would credit this one other reason. In other countries in the world or in other states inside US, we couldn't have another Silicon Valley. Okay, so that also explains why in Silicon Valley we can incubate one business from existing business. And if you take a study on the history of like some microsystem or Cisco or Yahoo or Google, you found that they are all incubated in existing institutes. They are not starting from scratch. So the idea is, if you want to do your own business, okay, in the future, don't start from scratch, and you probably want to start from existing business, and work for some companies, and then become the trader, and then you will get much easier to get success. Frankly, this is the secret of Silicon Valley. This is #1 conclusion I want to tell you. Okay, so let me talk about non-compete agreements. This is true for most of the area inside the states, but this is really hard to enforce in Silicon Valley. Why? Because if you have some disagreement between the employee and the employer, okay, and most time the law will favor employee. So that's the advantage I think you guys really want to take in the future. Because you don't want to start anything from scratch, and you want to take this advantage. This won't happen in New Jersey. When I was in New Jersey, worked for AT&T Labs, they told me that, well, not only everything you are doing inside your office within the 8-hour working hours belongs to the company. Everything you thought at home even though during your vacation, when you, step on the beach on Hawaii, it becomes to AT&T. Even though you work on software, if you invented some automobile, that also belong to the property of AT&T. So during that area, you cannot imagine they could have another Silicon Valley. So it's impossible. So this is also, I think, the secret of Silicon Valley, and why we become, we can, incubate so many great companies. So this is one thing I'd like to share with you. So this is top one secret. So betrayal. And also tolerance to betrayal. So I give you a concrete example. So our fund, Zpark Venture, invested on a company. It's a small company, work on mobile security, okay? And that 3 engineers worked for another public company called Palo Networks. You know, they are a very famous company in security today. And do you know, who was their first angel investor, their CEO? Very interesting, that, right? All their colleagues know that these small guys, 3 guys, work for their own companies inside the existing company, and nobody stopped this. And the CEO became the first angel investor to that company. Why? Because if they got died, this small company, that's fine. It doesn't hurt Palo Networks. If eventually these 3 people got success, they had the priority to purchase it back. This prevent the existing company and push these 3 guys to their competitors, existing competitors. Even though maybe one day they will get very successful, they become another Symantec, but still Palo Networks will get benefit from that. So this is the tolerance to betrayal. This is really important. I think I would say this is the top one secret of the Valley. So does anybody know? This is actually a jar of blue china. Does anybody know how much does it cost during the auction in Christie?
10 million?
Yeah, roughly right. It's like 30 million British pound, which is about 2.5 ton of pure gold at that time. Okay, so there are some products like iPhone or like blue china is liked by almost everybody in the world. Somebody likes some products, somebody don't like that one, but for some products, almost everybody like. And I found that for those products like iPhone, okay, basically it's not a product of one person, one company, but it actually has a few, because it was the product which almost embedded all the culture inside. So the hybrid culture is really important. So many companies or many countries compete with Silicon Valley to find good people to build great products, and they failed. Why? Because I would say this small Silicon Valley actually reflect the entire world, because we have the people from the entire world. This is really important. So this is, I would say, the number 2 secret inside Silicon Valley. So internationalization is really, really important here. And even for the small company with like 50 people or maybe only 20 people are international companies here in Silicon Valley. This doesn't happen in Europe, doesn't happen in China, doesn't happen in India, and doesn't happen even in East Coast, but it happens in Silicon Valley. So I would say this is probably the number 2 secret, I would say, in Silicon Valley, okay. The third one is rejection or mediocrity. I would say this is really important. Why? Because you cannot make a living unless you are excellent. Because the housing price is so expensive here. Everything is so expensive here. A company cannot make a living if they are not in top 3 in this section or in the States because everything is so expensive. Let me give you show you this chart, okay? The green one is the increase of housing price in Silicon Valley. You can see it's increased very fast. Who can afford that? So people in these companies can afford the housing. Why? Because the market cap of these companies increased. This is the red one, even faster. So if you want to be an entrepreneur or if you want to join a company, if you want to join a company, join a great company. If you want to be an entrepreneur, be the top 3 in your area, okay? Because this is the growth of the housing, and this is the growth of your wealth. This is the only way you can get success in Silicon Valley. So Silicon Valley is for great people and also for you guys. And whenever a company is losing the profit margin goes down, they will either acquired by some other companies, or gradually will lose their masters. Even just like Sun and HP, I would say this is not a good example. So this is the conclusion I have. This is also the 4 words I give you. So have some dreams, and don't be so loyalty to your previous employee, and you have to be excellent. And if you are a boss, be tolerant to cheaters inside your companies. Thank you. Thank you.
Will you take some questions?
Yeah, sure, definitely.
So I think what we're going to do is kind of a combination of things. We're going to take a couple of questions now, and then I'm going to introduce Jason Huertas from Critica and let you know how we can continue a discussion, if that's all right. We'll just take a few now, but don't leave. And I know you'll have questions for Dr. Wu later, but you'll just need to listen to some next steps. So, questions? Do we really, well, in case you didn't have questions, we thought we could take this online. And let me introduce Jason Huertas and tell him kind of what we're thinking about doing interactively afterwards.
Actually, I think one thing that Jun,
Yeah.
you could talk a little bit about is being the, a head search guy over at Google, and then at Tencent, which is also another top 5 internet properties in the world. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience and the differences between working at, sort of the both sides of the equation, and then do those conclusions you mentioned, is that necessarily the case?
Okay.
In China versus, in Silicon Valley.
Okay, so the question was to compare big company in China and Tencent and with Google actually. So whenever you want to build some global product or international product, it's quite different to build a product to fit a particular country or particular area. So that's quite different. To give you a concrete example, okay. So just whenever you use Google Map, so one thing to do is to understand the address. So that should be a quite easy program to write, right? I think you guys can do that. You can use some like pattern match, or you write maybe finance state machine to do that. It's quite easy. If only for English. But if you want to build a product for all the countries, in the world, it's quite different. And the design of the program is completely different. And so you have 2 choices. One is to build one product only for one country and then grow from there. And you say, well, whenever I, for example, occupy the market in China and then I go globally, this is one solution. Or from the first day you design product for the entire world, they are different, right? And whenever you make decision, your fate is decided already, okay? So what Google what Google did was actually they designed a product for everybody in the world. So and at the beginning, the design is very complicated. It probably even takes longer time to implement, but eventually it got benefit from that. So whenever Google launch a service in one country in US usually, and it takes only 6 months to go to about 8 or 9 major languages, and we call FIGS in Europe, FIGS, French, Italian, Germany, and Spanish in and plus CJK, Chinese, Japanese, Korea, in just 6 months. So internationalization becomes so easy. In Tencent, it's quite different. They did an extremely good job in China in almost all aspects related to internet, but it takes them. It's so hard for them to become a global company because the design of product was just to fit one country or one culture, and it's almost impossible to change it, the structure behind, and make it a global product. So that's the difference I observed between these two companies. I would say they are all great companies, but they are much different the way they are doing things. Okay.
I have a question about. Okay. Hi, Dr. Wu.
Yeah.
My name is Bo. I have a question about what do you think is the next place that's either catching up or coming on par to Silicon Valley in other parts of the world, whether it's Europe, Asia, or South America, etc. And what do they lack to, or how much they're lacking in terms of, compared to what we have here? Thank you.
Back to 1980s, actually Japanese put much effort to to build some multi-international companies, and they got success in like automobile and electricity, and in some area, but not in all areas. But if you look at U.S. companies, okay, it's much. U.S. companies do much better job to go globally. If you count the revenue of SP 500 companies, all U.S. companies, more than 50% came from overseas, actually. And for China, I don't think this generation of companies can do an easy job to become global companies. Maybe from next generation of companies, maybe the companies founded today instead of founded 10 years back can do the job. That's my conclusion, actually. Because, well, their culture was already there. The product was designed for only one country or one culture. It's so hard to change it. There are only 2 exceptions. One is Huawei, and it's like Cisco in China, but they have the global revenue. 70% of revenue came globally. Only 30% came from China. Another was Lenovo, actually. And because Lenovo did that by M&A, actually, instead of building many international offices. So that's the only 2 exceptions I found. Thanks.
Thank you. We can also ask more questions online, but I'm going to introduce Jason, who's actually a fresh entrepreneur out of CET.
Cool, thanks guys. I'll make this quick. Cal alum, graduated in 2010. I actually worked with Vicky about 3 months ago. Founded our own startup. We came out of CET. It's called Critica. You'll be using it later today. Just keep an eye out for the email. I think A through M will be participating. All you have to do, make sure you use your berkeley.edu address so we can track your emails so Vicky can see that you participated. Yeah, so basically, Critica is a discussion platform, but it's with a little twist. We have time discussions, so this discussion is going to run for 24 hours. Vicky and I will pick the topic. We'll send you a link. You can post, and you can reply to other people's posts. During the actual 24 hours, your posts are anonymous. But at the end of the 24 hours, we reveal everyone's identity. And we're actually in beta testing right now. We're just testing this out to see if this little twist on identity in online discussions is actually interesting for people like you. So we just launched about 2 weeks ago. So I will also be following up to everyone who signed up and getting everyone's feedback.
And so this is an opportunity, not just, I think what we're going to talk about, Dr. Wu, we'll ask you if you're okay with this. Kind of the most controversial thing that I thought I heard you say, and you all can disagree with me, but was this idea of betrayal being a secret of Silicon Valley. And I think we'd like to do a discussion around what you all think about that.
Okay.
One where not just betrayal, but the tolerance for betrayal.
Yeah.
And included in that, as you all have questions, you can post them as well. And Dr. Wu, you'll be able to follow the discussion. And kind of like Quora also, you can address some points that students have. If there are questions that come up in the discussion, perhaps you would be good enough to answer those questions over the next 2 days.
Sure. Of course.
And here's the twist that we're testing is that you can be talking with the doctor, but you don't know you're talking to him. And we'll see how interesting those dynamics are within the discussion. So Vicky and I will be sending out the link later. Keep an eye out for it. Again, sign in with your berkeley.edu Google address. And it's critica.io if you want to take a look beforehand. And I would love any feedback that you have.
You said critica.io?
Critica.io, not .com.
And I just want to make sure, in order to get on the site, you have to log in.
Yes, log in with your Google Berkeley address so that we have the data records we can send to Vicky so she can give you credit for participating. Yes?
And A through M. And don't worry, N through Z, you will get your turn as well. And if you have not checked in, I know that Dr. Wu, he's so incredibly generous and gracious that I know that he will take questions going off and back, but if you haven't checked in, look for Arezu, who will be right outside if you want to get your attendance checked in.
Cool, thank you guys.